Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, for this segment, well actually for the whole hour this morning, we are privileged to have within our presence the Tobago ACP for this morning, Mr. Collis Hazel. So a special good morning and welcome to you, sir, this morning. How are you doing? And of course, I think this is the first time we've seen each other for the New Year, so Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And let me say welcome, and it's always a pleasure from the Police Tobago Division to be on your program, and I look forward to an interesting morning.
Certainly, and you know, we've unfortunately in Tobago had quite a lot happening where crime is concerned. It's definitely not a place that we want to be, but it is where we are right now. When we went into 2023, the Tobago Police were boasting of about a 47% detection rate when it comes to solving murders and so on. And after the year we had last year, what are the statistics like now?
Okay, so we are still at that for last year. And of course, we are in the position that we are in a new year where we are starting off with just for having 2 murders on the island. That is not a good place for this island, whereas where we start. Added to that, we are also faced with the idea of having a double fatal in terms of the accident that took place quite recently. So it has called for swift action, incisive action, and therefore the police will be operating at a zero tolerance at this point in time in order to curb the level of lawlessness that is taking place on this island. Kandace, one has to understand where we sit. First of all, we are quite knowledgeable and informed that Tobago is a tourist destination, and that is sent first and foremost. And in economies like this small island state, it becomes very volatile, where negative fallouts, negative travel advisories, and all these things can have a severe impact. It is not only about focusing on the main idea that we are a tourist destination, because with tourism, you have to first maintain your island, maintain your citizenry, and be able to ensure that it is safe for others to come and enjoy the safety. And that is our mandate at this point in time. We are geared towards ensuring that we, within a short space in time, that we dismantle, disrupt, lessen all activities that involve level of lawlessness on this island. And the public would have realized that we have started quite quietly in our interventions in terms of doing what we are set out to do. I want to take the opportunity as the Assistant Commissioner to apologize to the law-abiding citizen of this island as it relates to their going about, because there are going to be disruption. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown. The crown is mine. And therefore, I take full responsibility in terms of ensuring that the persons on this island with executive responsibility, that we keep Tobago safe. However, I must mention that this has to be a multi-pronged approach. Crime fighting is not just a policing aspect. And we, the executive of the TTPS, just came out of a 3-day retreat over the weekend in Port of Spain, strategizing of our plans for until 2026. And we would realize that basically you have seen that crime fighting now is dynamic. And therefore, it requires, with the intervention of all these other aids that was not there in the past, it requires that multi-pronged approach that all hands ought to be on deck. But I would just want to share something with you and the members of the public that we are increasing, and if we are to move forward, we have to ensure that Tobagonians be more work-related with and more accommodative in ensuring that we rid the menace that is taking place in society. Yesterday we had an island-wide exercise throughout all points. And Kandace, I can share with you that it was amazing to see and notice what was taking place via social media in terms of the messages that were being sent out there, fooling the airwaves all abroad social media. They're here, they're in Bethel, don't come here, do this, they now come, they move. So all our movements, all over the place, on chats, and that was sent to us by law-abiding citizens, came about. And I am telling you, these were not foreigners. These were no gang people from nowhere. These were Tobagonians.
And what is that doing? How is that undoing the work that the police is trying to do?
Of course, because at the end of the day, police operate in covert and overt situations. And clearly, the police of the past didn't have that challenge. Where at the end of the day, if you move from one place to the next, within a minute or so, the whole world and the whole broad base of people had an opportunity in order to tell you, well, okay, they come in, do this, do that, do the other, and alerting persons who are outside there creating public mischief. To create, and therefore we are the same citizens that continue to complain. What are they doing about crime? What are they doing about things? But in you look at social media yesterday, you saw a situation where people were blatantly disrupting the operation of the police by sharing information to and fro in order, while we are trying to dismantle and to apprehend those persons who are creating lawlessness in society. You had other lawless persons in Tobago who were encouraging that. And if we are to move on and if we are to partner and solve this problem, clearly, one, I admit that we are up for an uphill battle, but two, we will be relentless in our movement and we will not be deterred in ensuring that stops us. We would re-strategize, and as the young people say, we wheel in and come again.
So is that happening right now? Are you looking at a situation, because you may not be able to stop the message boards from going forth, but you'll have to find a way to go beyond it or go around it.
Of course, and that's why I said that we are not letting up in that vein. But I was just sharing that experience, of course, of the idea that this was one of our new challenge, and clearly it was not one in the past. We didn't have those kinds of fluid messages going forward in that dynamic and progressive way. And therefore, that is why I'm here. I'm always saying that, crime prevention and crime detection involvement is really a dynamic situation that we have to deal with from time to time. However, the officers continue to be focused. We are reaching with them, and we are putting all motivation strategies in place in order to create that opportunity that we can understand, first of all, that we are responsible as police officers with all the other intelligence, with all the other national security personnel on this island, in order to make sure that the responsibility is also to protect and serve the 65,000 persons who reside on this island, and to maintain safety and security.
Now, you mentioned that, of course, you still were able to go ahead with exercises yesterday. Did it yield anything that would,
Of course, the exercises yesterday saw us taking off the streets, lots of marijuana at various points throughout, large finds in cocaine, and of course, we were able even to move off persons who are wanted by other foreign countries for murder. And therefore, these are things in which we have to we have to treat it. We have had some persons here who are required on serious investigation that was held and is required by our counterparts in Trinidad. So the exercise was, I must say, was a successful exercise. It was termed Operation Clean Sweep, and Clean Sweep will continue until we sweep this place. But clearly, we are prepared to ensure that we will not tolerate this unrelentless amount of fear that is provided on our citizens in different communities of Tobago, that people wondering what is wrong with their little Tobago that has transcend into this idea of people outside here. And I want to say loud and clear as we speak, it is not about a blame game. It is not about casting aspersion about what happened in the past and what used to do in the past. Kandace, we are operating in a world with exponential change. And that is what we have to face and realize. Time has changed. People has changed. Technology has changed. What we need to ensure that happen on this island is that leadership endures. And this is what I am bringing to the table in terms of managing and from the executive command with my team of officers in re-strategizing, looking at the various scenarios and how we can be able to ensure to reach out here with the public. But I must hasten to add that it is not a single agency approach. One of our strategic pillar of our strategic direction of the organization is community engagement. And in that way, we are reaching out to all and sundries in order to ensure that everyone buy in and understand where we are, where we want to go, and how we can reach there. Critical among that, I've looked into the whole question quite recently to the fact that crime, in terms of crime fighting, can be considered a social construct. We had Durkheim posit that theory to us. And therefore, while we are trying to, the police from this lens is trying to weed out, to arrest, to perpetrators of crime, we also need to understand that crime for some people is a big business. And therefore, so you are working against an area where people are seeking their economic endowment. And utilizing the rich is utilizing the poor in order to continue to be rich. However, while we fight against that, one has to understand, in order to motivate, to educate, and to sensitize some of those poor people, as I would call and sometimes label them, who are involved in that, we need to use education in order to take them out of where they are. And I look at the situation in Tobago, and I'm seeing where we have to provide some social programs. As we weed out, we need to sow. So while we weed out, we need to sow social interventions in order to meet and treat that people will change their ways. And I'm looking to the fact that there are some areas, if you don't find time for these people, and creative avenues for them to get involved in, they are going to fall prey to social ills in society. So as we weed out, and if there is nothing to help them and develop them, they are going to get back there within the same space and continue their trade, continue their craft in order for survival. I am saying the time has come as well for the agencies to partner with us, both business and the Tobago House of Assembly, in terms of their partnership in developing some level of programming so that we can treat with this whole question of social interventions. When I draw to your example, when I look in the communities, I'm not seeing, I talk to my own community, where is the lit basketball court in the night for these persons to take a sweat? All these young boys are all around the road. When I go to Glamorgan, a field that is utilized every day as I drive past there, there is the most amount of young people on that field, yet it's not lit. Nothing is taking place there, so that at the end of the day, we could create an avenue. I can go further. We have in the Tobago House of Assembly over 41 sporting disciplines of coaches. I know because I am in the NGO and CBO world. Those coaches are working 8 to 4. 8 to 4. But they are there to work with community groups and sporting groups. When does community groups and sporting group meet? So we have some wrong alignment, and we need to put them right in order to do the work, so that at the end of the day, these social intervention that I speak of can get off the ground. We now need to have them working so that they could go out there and work with the football group at a later hour, get the young people involved. We need all those programs that used to happen, like dance class, drumming class, singing class, all those entrepreneurial programs that used to run in the evening, to get back up. And it's something we love.
Yes. And we'll get more into that conversation when we get back after the break, but we have to take a quick break right now, so viewers, please don't go anywhere. We'll be back with ACP Hazel.
Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, viewers. We are continuing our conversations this morning with Tobago ACP, Mr. Collis, Officer Collis Hazel, as we try to figure out what's been happening with the crime situation here in Tobago, because it's a very unfortunate situation where we are at this point in time. But there are things happening. But one of the things that Officer Hazel said, just before we went to the break, is there seems to be less social programs happening in the communities, and this is affecting the work that police can do. And you were specifically talking as well to the police youth clubs. We have some very active police youth clubs and some police youth clubs that are doing tremendous work in our communities, but it's only left to the community police youth clubs.
So, Kandace, I make the point in terms of this multi-pronged approach in which we want all agencies on board in order to collaborate. Because from where we sit, we are seeing where the police has come in a concentric circle, full force, in that we arrest, we take people to court. Sometimes we do get conviction, other times we get a slap on the wrist in the judicial system. And some of what I have noticed as well is the fact where persons are given, let's take for instance, community service orders. Because we don't want to fill up our jails and we want to rehabilitate persons. And nothing wrong with that. However, those rehabilitation, most of those rehabilitation, are you not aware, Tobago is not aware that most of those rehabilitations are done at police youth club houses? So it has come full circle where we are arresting persons, we take them to court and charge them, and in terms of the rehabilitated process, it is back to the police youth clubs. We have 18 on the island, where at the end of the day, they are coming back there. The same persons who we arrest, we are now asked to rehabilitate their social level of dysfunction and bring them back to society. And therefore, that partnership approach needs to take place. We need all that is done by police officers, and we require assistance in order to do that, because it takes the same trained police officers who have to now do all that work in order to treat with that. And therefore, hence the reason I'm saying the social intervention needs to be broadened in order to treat with misbehavior that is taking place in society. Young people and not so young people who are engaged in crime, and most of them, some of them are illiterate. We need to be able to treat with that, because those are the ones that are moving on and accepting the challenge to go out there to be this mistrants in society. And that call, that clarion call, is calling for approaches that will come from both the business, private sector, from the Tobago House of Assembly, from the religious groups, and all agencies coming on board in a multi-pronged approach in order to deal with social interventions that can see us working together to change behaviors that are taking place in society. We just can't sit down and wonder, well, what taking place and what have you. We have to plug resources at the point where our challenges are. So we have a challenge now with crime, and therefore one of the intervention to that is to plug resources in terms of helping those persons who are committing the crime and changing their life away from that pattern.
Now, I also want to get into some of the conversation about the actual crime activity that we're seeing here in Tobago. That there is a change, because previously, let's say we had the village, drug box, you knew them, but there was a certain level of criminal activity that was attached to them. What we're seeing now is that it seems that more of the gang culture is creeping up here in Tobago. So instead of just having village blocks, we seem to be having gangs. What is your intelligence saying about what's happening with our criminal activity, especially related to the recent shootings and murders that we've seen here in Tobago?
Kandace, you have people in this island who it's a competing crime fighting, dealing with a competing for resources. Okay? And clearly the gangs are competing for resources. And in that vein, they are trying to spout out and to find their personnel in every nook and cranny of a society. So they are on a recruitment drive, and they are coming to seek who they can capture.
And are these gangs from Trinidad?
These are people, gangs from that, coming from wherever they're coming from. But of course, they are looking for membership. Now, who are the members that they can lure to their operation? Most of the times are people who are illiterate, who will want to wear a badge of rank or feeling that, okay, if you give me a gun, I could shoot somebody and I could get some money and I could live by that. Not fearing the idea of the challenge that the police is coming after you, you are being marked, you are being challenged, you're being observed in terms of your actions. They don't fear, they don't have no care about that, they have no knowledge about that, and they're just going out there wantonly doing whatever their leader sets out for them to do. So you have that, you have that situation that is taking place very covertly, and we sit down here and we encourage them. The strangers that we see in our community is nothing to nobody again, and we hug them up, and we are proud of them. Some of them inter-village. So all is not, as we continue to blame Trinidad to everything, all of them not coming from Trinidad. You have inter-village, people who moving from different parts, from different communities, and going different ways, working in order to create their own fear in terms of their gang. Because you have to create fear among people in this island is just to create the idea that you are a part of 6 and 7. Like if 6 and 7 is this big destructive thing. And from the time people hear that, they become scared. They become locked into their cocoon and realize, well, okay. So fear of crime sometimes is more dangerous than the actual crime itself. But coming back to your question in terms of what are we seeing now as it relates to some of these murders that are taking place, clearly the murders are happening with the use of firearms. We don't manufacture firearms on this island here in Trinidad and Tobago. However, firearms, like we all know, come through our borders. Legal port as well. And therefore, for us to mend that legal port issue, there needs to be a collaborative effort in terms of us working in tandem with all heads on deck, both government and the Tobago House of Assembly, even need to put their heads together, and the Port Authority, that we need scanners on that port. We need scanners on that port to be able to detect, and it can happen. It happens all over the world. I was part of a team already that identify a scanner and the costing of that scanner for that project. What we need to do is be able to get that, because it poses a challenge for us, for the police officer to stay and check all those vehicles that coming off the boat individually, all those trucks and all of that, who bringing firearm here, covering on the sand, and all this sort of thing that we encounter. And therefore, we have to get more modernized in terms of our approach with utilizing machinery and equipment of detection rather than human element. So that is one in terms of treating with that. We have a situation as well where, of course, the other islands, the other countries where firearm is much more prevalent, it is more of trading firearms for food, for survival. So on the Venezuelan border and the court, which is very close to Trinidad, you have an exchange of guns for food, for medicine, for all these things, because guns are easy for them to acquire. At the end of it, it ends up on our porous borders here. And therefore, the fight is not only for the police. I don't hear the public calling out, where is the Coast Guard in all of this? In order to be able to ensure that they protect our borders. But we have to treat with everything so long as it gets on land, because that is our responsibility. That is what we are about in terms of detection and protection.
Now, some people might say that, you might know some of the areas where you would have illegal guns and drugs coming in. Are you aware of those points, and are you monitoring those points?
Kandace, one thing I always mindful of in terms of my interview is that I know when to speak, how to speak, and what to see. And you just take the code from that. There are things that I will not see in terms of policing. And therefore, what I can give you the assurance that we have a rigid and robust detection and intervention strategies in order to answer those questions.
Okay. And in terms of, working along with the port, because of course you mentioned the scanners, and for years, for many years, we've been asking for those scanners. And what's the relationship like with the port at this point in time, to even, let's say, to have the K9 units there, doing the checks for vehicles boarding and coming off of the vessels and so on?
Now, I must say to you that a meeting is scheduled with the port management and myself and the port board, because I realize that there has to be that multidiscipline, multi-pronged approach, and that has been one of my challenge. So a correspondent went out asking for a meet. It was acknowledged. So we will be meeting in order to treat with those situations as we see how we can be able to best strategize in terms of treating with that. The port is not the only one. I'm meeting with the business community, the chamber, in order to put some of my issues out in terms of what we intend to do, what are some of our challenges, and how can the business community, how can the NGOs and CBOs, so it's a broad stakeholder grouping in order to ensure that all of us get on deck together.
And what about the relationship with the public? Because that also needs to be a major part of the conversation. We had an incident just recently where, you know, there was an officer that was alleged to, you know, not have a good repertoire with someone calling in for a home invasion. Of course, that was said to be in Trinidad. But we all often get reports of those challenges in the way that police officers deal with members of the public. And this, of course, does not augur well to the way that information comes forward.
Kandace, I must say to the end user of that service, I want to be one of the first person to apologize on behalf of the TTPS for that type of service. My commissioner of police and her executive has been utilizing the opportunity throughout in terms of ensuring that educating our officers to offer courteous and exemplary service to members of the public. However, like anything else, sometimes a bad apple will spoil the whole bunch. And good news don't sell. Bad news is what's sold to public. However, I must mention that was clearly something that has embarrassed us, and therefore we have examined it closely in terms of how can we re-strategize in terms of treating with that. The police service have been running numerous customer service training for our officers. And it is only last weekend we have decided that we put up as part of our strategy, yet to be concluded with a decision, that there shall now be mandatory training for police officers in performance appraisal, in customer service. And this will be done through our performance appraisal management system. So any officer must now take that that customer service training. But it's not only to take it, because we want to be able to ensure that although we have it aligned to your performance appraisal system, in order to measure it, we are now introducing the mystery service into the arena, so that we will have mystery persons all over that will now try to ensure that we bring everybody up to speed. So you don't know when somebody bouncing in into you asking you questions, and in terms of a mystery shopper, that will be able to set it right, because we need to get it right. Our customers are our very important stakeholders, and if they are not given the service that we ask to give out, we are about wasting time. We need to build trust, we need to build confidence, and we need persons to redefine our focus, that those trust, confidence, honesty, and reliability can be the conduit by which you can identify police officers within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It is going to be a long haul, but there are going to be consequences when our mystery shoppers get on board and identify people who are not keeping the mandate of the Commissioner of Police and her executive. And this is where we are going in order to treat with that, because you have to be able to plug situations in order to treat with that. Far too long we have been talking. It's not to say that, and let me say to you that this customer service training is not that we're going to take everybody and put them in the barracks and go and train them physically. We are going to have in-house training, but there are modules that are going to be done online that people must complete. And in order to satisfy them, and that is being tested, and to give the result in terms of persons, ensuring that people must pass them. And then you have the practical session where they will be monitored by mystery shoppers. So we are bent on ensuring that officers change their ways in terms of bringing that exemplary customer service. And more so for us on the island of Tobago here, where we are driven by customer service satisfaction in the tourism industry. We cannot be there talking to people as we well want, without any pride and dignity about about ourselves and how we go about. And also, customer service too is all about giving feedback. It is all about ensuring that at the end of the day, when persons come to our station, we are able to provide that adequate feedback to them, reliably informed. Another point that we are going to be establishing our strategic direction, we are going to be establishing at our A station a customer relations clerk or officer. That officer in the larger station will be there to ensure that the public, that just as you will see in the bank, where someone will meet you and greet you when you get to the station, and of course that person could be the conduit to which you ask to get follow-up on informations at the very busy stations, so that our customer relations officers would be reintroduced into our what we call A stations in order to treat with members of the public. But clearly we have taken that on board, and we have already identified the strategies by which we would want to treat with that.
Now, and then what about community consultations and community engagements and so on? Now, we've seen them in the past, and a lot of times it was the conduit as to how people, members of the public, would be able to give information to the police and to actually have that conversation and build that relationship with the police to make sure that we have a better handle on crime. Will we see some of that returning?
Well, what I can say to you is that even in the Tobago space, I was very happy to be talking to a businessman quite recently right here in Scarborough who talk about our station council. And he attends station council's meeting, and they are able to identify what are their concerns to these inspectors and the sergeants, and in order to have them treated. That is all part of the stakeholder the consultations as well, in terms of customer service that we give out, so that people can come, anyone can find out when the station council is happening in their area, and to be part of it, to provide that information. We are also providing too, beside the normal boxes at station, where, you know, some people are very old-fashioned and archaic, they would still want to write their comments and drop it into the box. We are also providing the opportunity of digital, where people can now scan the code at the station, write out their comments, send it back to the public affairs, so that those that will deal with customer service as well. But we do have the situation at our stations where we have station council meetings where people can now, you know, relate their concerns in terms of what they need to see happening. We have included as part of the strategic direction of the organization is what we are entrusted to do is community walkabouts. We have now redefined what a community walkabout will be and set it across the board in terms of a structure. So you're not just walking aimlessly about the place to say you have a community walkabout. You are going out there now in groups with police officers, interacting with people in the community, engaging them in a meaningful way, understanding that this is part of what we organize as crime through environmental design, CEPTED. And we are now going to be looking at some of the challenges, seeing them with our own eyes, looking with them, seeing, well, okay, you may have, as I mentioned to you, crime is a social construct as well. So people may be disfranchised by its base of water, simple as you see it. But there is, later down in that while, there will be rioting, there will be fighting, people can't do anything. There's basic functions of society is not being met. And therefore, that spurs on to crime and criminal activity. So it is for us to understand that when we patrol and we see a leaking pipe or a light bulb up there that is blown, you can't stop there as a police officer. You need to get in contact, call 800 bulbs in T&Tech and make sure that that bulb is repaired. Because at the end of the day, that becomes a target, a soft target to be utilized for the bandits to fall prey on the citizens. So it is all about a meaningful dialogue that we are zeroing to our officers.
What's going on with our CCTV cameras here in Tobago? I know we have quite a few on the island. Are they working and are they being actively monitored?
We do have some challenges, and I must make mention about that. And I want to, at this point in time, inform the public that at the end of the day, we do encounter some challenges with our OC in terms of our telecommunication systems, in terms of communicating with the stations. It is not that it was in the past, I must admit, where you could have called a station and you get that station direct. We have now gone into the trunking system where all the lines have gone into one big module and you can call. So while you may be calling CID, you may not really get that direct connection to the CID. In terms of that, because of the trunking system, there's extensions that will move off and taking you there from time to time. And that comes with technology. Sometimes we throw away the old for the new, but clearly the old is what it is. There's dialogue now in us for us now to try to reconfigure this whole communication situations. Some of the cameras, may I say to you, are not controlled by the police in terms of it is a Ministry of National Security apparatus. And therefore, they are the ones who are seeing about some of the cameras on the island. I know that they have started repairing cameras. There were over 2,500 cameras that had to be repaired. I can give you the assurance that for the carnival just concluded there, on the carnival route, all those cameras were working. And therefore, they continue after that in order to ensure that the cameras are up and functional. But what I want to tell the Tobago public with respect to this communication, you have a part to play in this camera as well. Don't just depend on the police apparatus or national security apparatus. You need to engage your provider. The government has reduced all tariff on ICT equipment, and all of us walking around with a phone in our hands, which is a serious device that can be a life-saving and a crime-fighting tool. I am asking persons, if you are to invest and if you are to help the police in terms of and create your safety, put in some cameras in and around your surroundings. Not only watching your house, but watching the entrance of how the perpetrator could get to you. Because that is critical. I say that with the knowledge that some in the investigations that are taking place, some of these murders that just went there could have been solved already had that apparatus be in place. So I am asking the citizens on this beautiful island, put some investment in a camera, align it to your phone, because you're walking around and you're only on Facebook and you're only doing WhatsApp and WhatsApping thing all about the place. But you could help yourself and you could secure your island and you could secure your space and your family by ensuring that you engage in a productive and sensible way in terms of spending some money on some security apparatus that can help us to catch the perpetrator of these crimes.
And what about the state of our forensics here in Tobago? Where are we in terms of making sure that we apply the right science, the latest technology towards solving some of these crimes? And I'm not just talking about the murders, but even the home invasions and that sort of thing too.
Well, as we rightly say, the devices have to be involved, some of these devices have to be in place. The law through our new system of AJUPA now provides that opportunity where we can utilize and upload footages from these devices to take to the judge in a more convincing way So in the past where you had to photograph and you go inside there and the police photographer will have to go and give evidence that he's trained and all of that in order to take a photograph. You have a situation now where you are able to detect an offense outside there based on your footages from your camera. That is uploaded and is seen in real time. This is what happened. You can't hide from that. That's you taking place there and get quicker conviction at a faster rate rather than that old archaic way. I must mention the forensic unit we continue to rely on the forensic unit of that of Trinidad and Tobago. There has been some upgrade in that we have had officers now who have joined from the division, who have joined the forensic unit in terms of analyzing firearms and ammunitions and stuff like that. And we continue to work with them in terms of getting assisting in terms of the solvency with respect to crime and criminal activity. So we do not have a separate forensic unit of our own here, but we depend on the National Forensic Unit for the services that are provided in crime fighting.
Do you think that is something, having our own unit here, forensic unit, do you think that will help more in solving or having a quicker resolve of crimes?
I would say no. At the end of the day, a forensic unit, we can talk from here to thy kingdom come. But a forensic unit is an expensive device. And if CARICOM is looking to partner with Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the new forensic unit that is set up, that is to tell you what, we looking for our own forensic unit here, that money could be spent elsewhere in terms of doing something else. It can be assessed very closely by getting it to Trinidad and getting it back here.
Okay. Now we've got just about a minute left for our conversation here. It's Hazel, so I just want to give you the floor to just say a few words to Tobago in just a minute time.
So I want to say to my people on this island that the police is very much aware of what is taking place. We are up to the task. We continue to motivate the officers to be resilient and dedicated to duty, to what they would have been their oath of office. We are still reminding persons that if you see something, say something. The carnival is on our doorstep, and therefore I have had conversation with the secretary that the carnival will not be what we just came through as for the October carnival, and therefore it would be tailored down a bit in terms of some of the activities that they were going to have. So we are still saying we still need to keep it safe and to make it safe. And you play a critical role in the national apparatus in order to ensure that safety and security abides on this island. Tobagonians, we continue to talk about the fact that we are Tobagonians. But the Tobagonians of the past is perhaps not the Tobagonians present, and therefore we need to educate, we need to sensitize, and we need to act as a catalyst for change in this era to make those who are coming now understand what we used to do when we talk about our Tobagoness. That unity, that love that was abound on this island needs to return. We can't give up. We can't let up and talk foolishness like now is their time. We need to ensure that we entrench the boundaries of this island in ensuring that we shape and mold our young person into productive citizens. The time has come. Nobody else will do it for us. We need to play that pivotal role in doing it for ourselves. No amount of blame and going out there and condemnation to different persons are going to solve the problem. If you have information, bring it to the police. If you don't trust this one, you must trust someone. And therefore, uneasy is the head that wears the crown. I can't sell out on myself, and I'm certainly not going to be selling out on anyone. Bring the information to me.
All right. And I mean, there's such important words that we need to leave the public with. It is very important that we continue to cooperate with our police officers. And I mean, I'm going to reinforce a call from ACP Hazel. Viewers, if you have any information about anything that's happening criminal-wise within our society, make sure you let the police aware. Utilize Crime Stoppers if you have to. There are many avenues that you can reach out to the police officers. So please do so that we can have the best chance at fighting the criminal activities here in Tobago. So thank you you, Officer Hazel, for being here with us. And viewers, thank you for being with us. And we will see you again tomorrow.
Tobago updates.
It's a
Good morning,
pleasure.
Tobago.
France always.